Well, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining our session today on skilling up students for the digital workforce. My name is Kevin. I work at Salesforce. I run a team called Trailblazer Connect, which is focused on getting students and community members skilled up for jobs of the future. We'll spend plenty of time talking about that, but I want to have my co-presenter introduce herself as well.
Hi, my name is Molly Leonard. I am a Salesforce administrator with Ed Plus at ASU. I'm here to talk a little bit about my experience in using Trailblazer to make huge changes in my career path.
Awesome. We're so excited to have you, Molly, with us today. So before I get started, I do need to just cover our forward-looking statement. This simply says, if you're making any purchasing decisions, please do it based on what's available on salesforce.com and not about anything that we may talk about today. We are certainly thinking about the future and trying a lot of things, so this is certainly relevant for our conversation today. So before we get started, I just want to give you a huge thanks for spending some time with us today. I know that we all have crazy lives in these new times, and so I'm so grateful for you spending some time with us today to talk about how we get our students ready and how we get them in a place where they are ready for these jobs that are happening today and tomorrow, and how we're adjusting to everything in this new normal of working from home and new technologies and everything else that comes with it. So I'm super grateful for all of you. I want to start with some questions. So we're going to use this hand raise functionality. If you haven't used Zoom before, there should be on the bottom of your screen a little hand raise functionality. So go ahead, raise your hand if you are familiar with Salesforce. You've heard of it. Maybe you know what it does. Okay, a couple of you. All right. And what about Trailhead? Has anybody heard of Trailhead before? Ooh, Molly, we've
Oh,
got
I
some
have.
exciting times here. We're gonna introduce everyone to Trailhead today, and it's going to be amazing. So I'm so excited. So I want to talk a little bit about Salesforce. I know that many of you said that you are not familiar with Salesforce. So let's start there. So Salesforce is a CRM, or a customer relationship management tool. And I know it's a little confusing. You may be thinking, at CRM, sales, what does that have to do with education? But really what Salesforce is all about is connecting customers and companies. And sometimes that customer are people like you and I, and those companies are the brands that we buy from. And sometimes they're institutions and students. Sometimes they are donors and nonprofits. But what we're doing is we're here to help create these connected experiences between customers and brands. And we're doing that through technology. And there's a lot of technology. I'm sure as you look at this slide, you're seeing some of those technologies that maybe you're excited about or nervous about or still learning about. But technologies like voice, right? If you have an Alexa or a Google Home in your home or in your office, how do we use things like connected apps? And is there an app for that now? And yes, the answer is yes, even if it's things like my Tesla that has an app for it, right? How are we thinking about artificial intelligence, and how are we thinking about blockchain? You may have heard about blockchain with ASU and Salesforce. We're doing some really interesting things about sharing learning records and how does that work? So we're using technology as a base to create these experiences that we as customers have come to expect. Now, we're going to get to why this matters in a second, but I want you to keep in mind these connected experiences, right? And you've all experienced them before. Maybe if you've ordered on the Starbucks app, or if you've stayed at a Marriott hotel, or maybe you've even used that functionality at the hotel where you can like badge or tap your phone to the door and it unlocks the door. So these are all these connected experiences. But why does this matter to our students? Well, these experiences, these connected experiences that we're all experiencing have to be built somewhere, and they're being built on Salesforce. So as we think about skills, as we think about what are the skills that students need to graduate with, the skills are no longer Word and Excel and PowerPoint like they were when many of us went to school. They're now skills like Python and R and Salesforce. there are these new technology skills that are needed in order for you to graduate. And Salesforce doesn't just sit, despite its name, in the sales department. So if these experiences are being are being created in the sales department, but they're also happening in call centers, in service centers, in field technicians, in commerce and marketing. Across the organization, these experiences are being created and powered by Salesforce, the platform. Now, if you think 10 years ago, 15 years ago, oftentimes when we wanted a new experience, let's say we wanted some sort of automation or even something as simple as a dashboard or a report, oftentimes we'd submit a request to IT and it would disappear in some dark hole we never knew about. And maybe 3 months from now, we would get that report that we were looking for. But that's all shifting now. And now employers are expecting students to be able to have those skills. And Salesforce, being a click-not-code platform first, means that students can create these experiences, or employees can create these experiences right from where they are in the organization instead of going to IT. So think about Salesforce as a skill. Salesforce is something that employers are asking for, and we'll talk about what that ecosystem looks like, but they are asking for students to have the skills as they enter the workforce. Now, the last thing that's really important to cover about Salesforce and who we are as a brand is our values. And this may feel a little cheesy. I've been at Salesforce for 4 years. I remember my first 4.5 years, almost 5 years now. I remember my first day at Salesforce, and it certainly felt a little cheesy. But I think what you will learn as you interact with Salesforce, and what I've certainly learned with my time here, is that our values are actually really important to us, and they drive a lot of our work. So you're going to see this as we talk about some of the work that we're doing today. And so our 4 values, the first one is trust. It starts with trust everywhere, from the customer to your data, and making sure that that data is secure, to the relationships we have, the transparency that we create between our customers, our ecosystem, our employers, our partners, and our students. Customer success is the second value, because we know that we cannot succeed without our customers succeeding. And so we always put that as a major value for us. We want to make sure that we're meeting the market where it is. The third is innovation. We release Salesforce versions, 3 major versions a year. We're constantly releasing new technologies, but we also realize that as a platform, we have the responsibility not just to create new technology through innovation, and not just release that for the use of a business, but also to think about all of the ramifications that come with that technology. And I know many of you in this education space, we're thinking about things like artificial intelligence and machine learning and image recognition, and how is that being used in today's world. And so we see innovation both as building that technology and figuring out as a community how we use that and what's the right way to use it. And finally, and most closely to my heart, is equality. It means, this, by the way, is not a new value for us. I've been seeing a lot of this equality pop up as a new value for companies. This is something that's been on our 4 core values for a very long time. And it focuses not just on the equality within Salesforce and our employees and our customers, but also our ecosystem, the world around us, and everything that goes along with it. So I like to just mention those to tell you a little bit about who we are as Salesforce. And as we talk about where we are pushing the future of technology, these things are really core to what we do. So why should you be thinking about teaching Salesforce? Why is Salesforce a skill that is really necessary? How is this getting everyone ready for this new digital workforce that we are going into? Well, the first thing you should know, if you are new to Salesforce, is that Salesforce is powering a lot of the experiences that you're already having. So we already talked about Starbucks or Marriott or Amazon that are all being powered by that platform. But in fact, 90% of the Fortune 500 are Salesforce customers. So if you think about where your students are going post-graduation, right, we've got this global workforce that is coming out of ASU. As they're graduating and going to work for these companies, the chances of them going to work for a company using Salesforce is very, very high. And you can see it's across industry, it's across vertical, and it's the brands that everyone knows and trusts. So it doesn't matter if you're sitting in CS, it doesn't matter if you're sitting in sales or marketing or business schools. There is a use case for Salesforce, and there are companies in your industry that are using Salesforce. And preparing your students with that skill set is really ensuring that they are ready for those jobs. I should also mention, although I work for Salesforce, we are not recruiting for Salesforce. We want every one of these students to go out and work for our partners and our customers. And we'll talk about what that means. But we want to skill up students just so that they can go out and they can work with these customers and partners. Now, let's talk about numbers. Let's talk about scale. How many jobs are we actually talking about here? The answer is a ton. The answer is a ton. A recent IDC report showed that by 2025, we'll see 4 million new jobs created. 4 million new jobs created that are asking for that Salesforce skill. Everything from junior level to executive level across all industries, across all verticals. And you can see that's not just based in the Americas. We're seeing over 1.5 million jobs being created in the US and Mexico and Canada. But no matter where students are going in the world, and especially with today, where they maybe currently are and are staying, right? These jobs are being created all over the world. And it has some real impact on the economy. We're going to see over $1 trillion of new GDP created through these new jobs that are being created. So this is a skill set that is being taught across hundreds of organizations today, community colleges, four-year universities, workforce development programs, and they are getting these people ready for jobs that are here today and for the jobs of tomorrow. And in fact, I'd encourage you to go onto a site like LinkedIn or Indeed and just do a search in your city, wherever you may be. Just do a quick search and look for Salesforce jobs. I think you'll be surprised to see just how many there are and to what the diversity of those jobs look like. So we've got these jobs, 4 million jobs. Oftentimes when I talk to educators, the first question I get is, okay, well, why me, right? Maybe I sit in the business school, maybe I sit in travel and hospitality, right? Maybe I'm in continuing education. Why me? Because these jobs are not just sales jobs. They are not just coding jobs. They're not just developer jobs. They are Salesforce admins. Looking at you, Molly. They're Salesforce admins. They're architects, they're developers, but they're also marketing managers, they're business analysts, they're consultants. They span across the organization. So again, think about Salesforce not as a technology. Think about it as a skill, as core and as fundamental to your students' learning as something like Word and Excel and PowerPoint. So no matter where they end up, no matter what roles they end up in, the chances of them using Salesforce is pretty high. And things are still changing, right? We know that the workforce of today will not look like the workforce of tomorrow. This is from a IBM study that showed that by 2022, which if you have forgotten is right around the corner here, 120 million workers are going to require reskilling. And this is a huge part of what we're seeing is jobs, especially as we think about artificial intelligence. There's another stat somewhere around 50% of hiring managers expect artificial intelligence to change the roles that our employees are doing. Work is changing, and your curriculum has to change with that. Your curriculum has to reflect the needs of the employers, both of your community and of the technology space abroad. So teaching Salesforce is a skill that's really easy to do, and we'll talk about how you can teach that next. It's really easy to do. That's really fundamental to all roles across the industries and verticals and locations, geographies. and it will really set them apart from the other job seekers in the space. I should also mention, as we go into how students can learn these Salesforce skills, that everything I'm talking about, all the resources that I'm about to talk about, they're all completely free. There is no cost associated with them. We have awesome classroom resources that I'll talk about. Those are all available for free. This is something that Salesforce is really passionate about because we know that the ecosystem needs it. We know that our customers and partners need this talent. This is not a business model for Salesforce. Now, we asked at the beginning, by the way, I should mention as before we go into this, if you do have any questions, we're happy to take those now. I'll be monitoring those along with Molly and Justin. So you can always chat those in the chat box, or we'll be holding some Q&A at the end as well. So if you have questions, feel free to drop them in there and we're happy to answer them. So let's talk about how we can start teaching those Salesforce skills. Hopefully at this point you're like, okay, Kevin, I get it. Lots of people are using Salesforce. I need to introduce my students to Salesforce. Seems responsible. How do I go about doing that? And Trailhead is the easiest answer. It's an online learning platform that is self-paced. Again, it's completely free. It's open to anyone. You don't have to be a Salesforce customer to use it. And it is teaching the in-demand skills that students will need to know. It's hands-on, which means that students are going to get that experience with the platform. So I know that you've probably heard from a lot of technology companies today. Maybe you were in the last session with Workday. These are, there's a lot of tools out there. We're providing free access to anyone who wants to go and learn Salesforce to the platform to go and learn that. So we're teaching Salesforce skills. We're teaching everything from how do you use Salesforce as a sales rep to the most complex development problems on Salesforce. But we're also teaching business skills and soft skills. We have some amazing content from organizations like Google and Apple who are teaching things like iOS development or Google Analytics. But we also have content on leadership skills and presentation skills. We have content on how to manage a team, how to remove unconscious bias from your hiring practices. We have content on the power of sleep and meditation. We even just released some content on working from home and how do you stay productive when you're stuck at home and working from home. We are constantly releasing new content. We have some 300, 400, maybe more badges at this point. We're releasing new content every single week that's written from across the organization and from partner organizations like Drucker School of Business that is releasing content around MBA essentials. Again, all of it available at a self-paced learning environment. And as students are learning on Trailhead, they're earning these badges and credentials. And these are ways that they can go to employers and say, hey, I have these skills. I've learned Salesforce and I can prove it. And we'll talk about, I know Molly's going to talk about her journey to her Salesforce certification as well. And you'll see the power that that really has in it. And the last thing that our team does, Trailblazer Connect does at Salesforce, is we help students connect to opportunities. We know that this is really, really hard, especially right now, especially as many internships and mentorships internships for the summer have been either drastically changed or maybe even removed and gotten rid of completely. And so we spend a lot of time focusing on how students build their network. We know that having a network is what will help you get that job. And so we have a really robust Salesforce community that supports, and there are local groups across the country and across the world that meet currently virtually on a regular basis and come together to network and share knowledge. We also have a traditional mentorship program where anyone can sign up to receive a mentor from the community in a structured 4-week program where they're going to learn about how to pick the right career, feedback on their resume, their interview, their personal pitch through a structured 4-week matching program. And we also run virtual career fairs. We run direct-to-student learning, kind of online workshops and webinars. So a lot of resources for job seekers. And if you want to learn about any of that, you can go to student.salesforce.com And you'll see all of those resources there. So Trailhead is the platform that makes it really easy for you to teach Salesforce. And here's the little trick. We've put all of this content on Trailhead, which means that you do not have to be an expert in Salesforce to be able to teach it. If you are, that's awesome. And you can bring in that real world experience, but we're also empowering you with content on Trailhead that makes it really easy. Now, in addition to Trailhead, we also have a bunch of other resources that our team has built specifically for the classroom. Again, I've been doing this for about 3 years, focused on education organizations. I've spoken to thousands of organizations of all kinds across the globe. And what we've done is we've taken those conversations and we've built resources that really matter to you. So that means things like classroom materials. We have launched 4 courses so far, soon to be 5 over the next few weeks, courses around sales and sales manager and admin and business end users that include PowerPoints that you can then teach in classroom and lecture. They have activities that you can do. They have Trailhead modules that fit for that content. And they really cover the core concepts instead of the Salesforce technology. So you can teach the core concepts and Trailhead will teach the Salesforce piece. We have best practices that we've, again, curated from the conversations that we've had. From content, we have marketing resources. We have data on the ecosystem and jobs. And all of that's available, again, completely free. And you can just access all of that through our Educator portal. You'll see a URL there on the screen, sfdc.co/educator portal. I'll ask you for a bit of information and I'll get you right into those resources. So we have a ton of content for you. And the great news is a lot of it is really easy to translate into virtual. A lot of it is ready to go and can be taught in this new virtual world. So take a look at that, sfdc.co/educator portal. You'll find all of our content there and you can get started with teaching. So, there's only so much I can do. I know that, I'm from Salesforce and I'm clearly biased. So I thought it would be really great to invite Molly to share her story and her journey falling into Salesforce and learning Salesforce and where it actually has brought her to today. So Molly, I'll let you take it from here.
Sure. And I think that falling into Salesforce is a perfect description of exactly what happened. My experience, I've been working in higher education since 2006. I started at University of Phoenix as an enrollment advisor and worked there for about 10 years. And then in 2016, I joined ASU as a success coach. So all of my work experience for probably about 11 and a half years was very student services oriented, working not face-to-face with students, but generally working with an online student population. So, working with people who had additional challenges and helping them to identify those issues and overcome them as they were working toward earning their degree. And it was I enjoyed my work, but it wasn't my jam. It wasn't what made me jump out of bed in the morning. But I wasn't really sure what I wanted to be when I grew up. I still was kind of looking for what did I want to do. So I, at one point, enrolled at ASU in a biochemistry program, thinking maybe I'll go to pharmacy school. And then suddenly I found out that Ed Plus at ASU was opening up a new enrollment department that specialized in enrolling our corporate partner students into ASU online degree programs. And there was an opportunity to join that team as an enrollment trainer. So I applied for that job and I got it. And again, it was great, but it was still not what I was looking for. But as part of getting onboarded into that position, that brand new department, Ed Plus was creating a new Salesforce org for that team to help them with marketing and managing student information and handling cases and servicing those students. And my boss at the time was not great with technology. Well, it was something that I really enjoyed. And she didn't have the words to ask for the reporting that she needed. And then our Salesforce team didn't understand the business processes to be able to provide the reporting. And there was that gap that I fit perfectly into. So I started playing around with Salesforce and trying to build some reports, and my boss loved them. And she said, give me more. I want this and this. And so I started building more reports and then learning about how to build dashboards, but just from playing with things and trying to figure them out. So it got to the point where my boss only wanted my reporting, only my dashboards. And so the project manager for our Salesforce team came to me and said, okay, if you're going to be doing this reporting, here's this resource, Trailhead, where you can learn more about how to use Salesforce. And from that moment, everything changed. Trailhead was a great opportunity for me to learn what I needed to learn at that moment. Like as Kevin was talking about, there's just a huge quantity of resources and information that's available to you in Trailhead, but I could easily go in and search for exactly the topic that I wanted to learn about and work on that module. And as I started working on more modules, which the module, everything is gamified. So you get like confetti when you finish a badge, and then you get a cute little badge that goes on your profile. And there's different levels of working through Trailhead that you can attain. And so it made it super fun, and I didn't want to stop learning. And it was something that was super interesting to me. So I kept learning and learning. In these modules, I got the information that I needed also in a way that was very hands-on. You're given your own sandbox to go in and work through the steps of the process to try it out instead of just reading about instructions. You're actually doing it, and then Salesforce Trailhead is checking your work at the end to make sure that you completed things successfully. And then once you have completed it successfully, then you get your badge. So it's a lot more interactive than just reading some instructions online. It was pretty spectacular. Perfect. That's a great example of what does a module look like. Here's all the information. And at the bottom, you may have some questions to answer. And then probably usually in the second or third modules is when you starting to do the more hands-on stuff where you link out into your own sandbox. So as I was working on all of my Trailhead modules and finding things that I was interested in and combining them into a trail mix that was my own personal little path through Trailhead, I discovered the section that Justin showed earlier that talks about some of the different careers that are available in Salesforce. It gives great information about like hiring potential in the future, generalized salary information, and I was kind of shocked, like Kevin said earlier, about the quantity of jobs that were out there. So like he said, I went on LinkedIn and started looking at what kind of jobs are out there. It was true. They were all over the place, and they had nice salaries attached that I was pretty motivated by. So I started learning more and more, working through Trailhead, working toward the goal of getting certified as a Salesforce administrator. And coincidentally, around the time that I was starting to kind of achieve my education goals in Trailhead, there was an opportunity that arose at EdPlus for a Salesforce administrator position for a project working with the Air University, which is a part of the Air Force. It's its own university basically within the Air Force that is a degree granting institution. So I'm working on this project now where I help to create another brand new Salesforce org from scratch to help onboard students over from the system that they were using before, which was basically like a book ordering system that had been adapted through the years to be a CRM. So they initially reached out to EdPlus saying, hey, can you help us get our distance learning education systems into the 21st century? And that's what we're working on. So my career path took a hard left from working in student services in education into working in technology to help provide services for those same students. So having that overlap between understanding the world of education, but then getting these technical skills has made me super marketable to people within the education industry to be able to understand all the processes and what are our students' needs, but also understanding the technology and being able to help provide resources to those students.
Amazing, Molly. I'm curious, and you kind of hinted at this at the end, but can you talk a little bit about what that experience has been like now that you're certified when it comes to your marketability and maybe the jobs that you are, not that you are thinking about, that one
Right.
might think about now that you have the admin cert?
Right. Now that I have the cert, I'm actually on my LinkedIn profile. I say that I am not interested in any in leaving my current
Why is
position
that, Molly?
because I'm very happy where I am. Doing super fun things. Finally found my thing. But I constantly get other companies or recruiters reaching out to me saying, hey, I know you say you're not interested, but just in case you are, or if you know
Yeah.
anyone that is, here are these job openings that are available. So it's, even though I explicitly say I'm not interested in being recruited, recruiters are still reaching out to me.
Yeah, and I think
And
that really,
I got certified in December. Like, I'm brand new.
yeah, it really speaks to just the need in the ecosystem, and that's what we're seeing is, you know, as you earn these certifications, there's just so much need in the Salesforce ecosystem for the skilled talent. And you obviously, Molly, you have a lot of experience as well, and hands-on experience in building these orgs, and it's really powerful to see and to hear that you have such, you know, great demand from that.
Yeah, it's been spectacular. It's made a huge change in my life, in like just, jumping out of bed in the morning to go see what happened and get to work is so much more exciting now that I've found this place where I can mix my love for technology with my love for helping students.
I love that. That's great. I do also want to mention, you know, Molly mentioned the Trailhead profile. I'll pull up mine. I didn't want to put you on the spot, Molly, so I'll show mine off.
It's
But
a little bit better than mine, Kevin.
oh, I've got a little bit more time. You know, the cool part about as you're learning on Trailhead is you're building out this profile that showcases the badges and skills that you have. So obviously, they'll also show, you know, any certifications that you have, but also as you're earning these badges, they're all tied to different skills. And so it's really easy for employers to start to figure out, you know, what are the skills that you actually have, and then can actually see those badges that you've earned. The other thing I'll mention is we are also working on things like experience-based projects. We've historically ran a few, you know, like case competitions throughout the year as well. We're looking for more ways to make that available. But we also have, as part of Trailhead, we have something called super badges. And super badges are a great way for you to actually test that knowledge and put it to use. We're seeing a lot of educators use this as a way to, you know, to do as a final project or as a capstone. And the thing about super badges is instead of a badge where it explains the content, a super badge is actually going to give you a real world business case. It's going to give you things like a use case and data models and stakeholders, and then have you actually go into Salesforce and build that. So there's a lot of great opportunities there for you to learn and get involved. If you want to learn more, I've pulled together a little kind of getting started trail mix. You can take a look at it at sfdc.co/learninghuman, and I'll get a little taste of Trailhead for you. I see a bunch of questions coming in, so we're going to take a look at these and see how many we can answer here. It looks like, you know, Chris had a question about learning Salesforce, and Donna chimed in there. Trailhead is a great place to start. If you're looking for resources, I would say start there. Sounds like maybe there's a path there. If you are looking to get certified as well, there are some great resources on Trailhead to do that. Super badges are a great way to get started with that. But also, as you look towards our certifications, they'll all have a kind of pre-work that will walk you through the content that's available. By the way, I also want to mention here, this little picker reminded me of a page that's worth showing you, because Molly mentioned salaries. That's always a big question that comes up. So if you're looking at the homepage here, you'll see we actually put together some content around different roles. And if you click into one of them, you can actually see the type of work that you would do. So it has things like average salary, $104,000 for a business analyst using Salesforce. Pretty great. You can see some of the latest job data and growth data. But you can also learn more about that skill, and you can learn about things like what a day in the life looks like. So for example, if we go back to that business analyst, for example, you can see the skills that are needed that for this role. So both the kind of soft skills and hard skills, as well as a day in the life. You can kind of go through and see what that looks like. So really great content here to share with your students as a way to learn about roles in the ecosystem. And you can even hear from trailblazers like Molly who are in those roles today. All right, let's take a look at a few other of these questions. Robin had a question about badging as they go through modules. So, as you complete Trailhead modules, you're going to earn that little badge that goes on your Trailhead profile. This is a great way to showcase that. You can put individual badges on LinkedIn, especially if there's one, in an area like unconscious bias or leadership that you really want to showcase. But I would say the best use case we've seen is to put your short Trailhead or a Trailblazer profile ID in your summary. We're seeing a lot of recruiters that are searching for those URLs, and then they can deep dive into those. So both are an option as well. Also looks like I had a question about outcomes. All of those outcomes are also listed inside of each module. So you'll be able to understand what each module covers. They're not carried over in badges, but certainly are something that recruiters and employers are drilling down into. I'd also say that for the most part, the recruiters in the Salesforce ecosystem are all really familiar with Trailhead and even have some of their favorite badges that they look for or have a pretty strong understanding of that content. Let's see, what else? Yes, Kristen, you should definitely think about technology and how we're teaching technology in the classroom as well. Let's see. I think those are all the big ones. I know Chris had some questions about learning Salesforce as well. There are obviously a lot of programs that are teaching Salesforce. So, look into your community as well. A lot of communities or programs like Pep Up Tech or Climb Higher are other great organizations that are teaching Salesforce as well. So again, I would start at sfdc.co/learninghuman. It's a great way to get your hands dirty with Trailhead. I was chatting with Molly earlier this week, and she said, oh, Trailhead, it's gamified and it's fun and you're earning these badges. And I had to admit to her, I said, Molly, I earned my 100th badge, which is like a milestone in Trailhead. It's our Ranger rank. I said I earned it at 2:00 in the morning at a hotel in Dallas because I was just like so close, and you get so excited about it, right, Molly? I mean, you just like
True, 100%. I can totally see myself doing that.
you just like you get totally pulled into learning this technology, and it's been a great way for us to kind of share around technology and as well as other skills. There's a really cool module around the creation of artificial intelligence and how do we think about the ethical creation and use of artificial intelligence. Something that, again, as we create this technology is something that's really necessary. If you want to learn more about blockchain and how ASU is using blockchain, we've got an awesome Trailhead module on blockchain, and you can learn all about the basics of blockchain and how it works. So it's a great resource as well. So if you have any questions, I will also drop in the chat our email address. You can email our team. We're happy to answer questions. If you have any, obviously, if you're inside of ASU, Molly is a great resource who's gone through that process as well. And I would say get started at sfdc.co/learninghuman. And with that, just want a huge thank you for all of you for joining me today. And Molly, thank you so much for taking the time to present and share your story as well. So with that, we'll go ahead and close out the session. We'll answer any questions that come up. I'll also go ahead and drop in that email address to the chat. So if you have any questions, you can email us at trailblazerconnect@salesforce.com. We're happy to answer any specific questions there. Or again, get started on the Educator portal, which was a link from earlier. And good luck. Hopefully you go out and learn some Salesforce tech, go and teach it to your students, make sure they're valuable, and ready for the new workforce. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us today.